Welcome back, viewers at home. You're still tuned in right here on INX Prime, channel 345 on your DSTV. Now, Marie Leroux is who has expertise in media strategy, has earned her the nickname Media Strategy Mafia Boss, a media strategist, international speaker, as well as an educator. She empowers enthusiasts, experts, and entrepreneurs worldwide to share their visionary messages through improved communication skills, media strategy, as well as self-discovery. Now, tonight she joins me to share her insight on building a successful brand in the era of social media influencing. Good evening, Marie, and welcome to INX Prime.
Thank you so much, Maimouna. It's lovely to be here.
Now, speaking on, before we get to, how do I build a successful brand and how do I become a great influencer, I would like to understand from you what really inspired you to become a media strategist?
Well, I kind of decided that's what I'd do after a long time of looking what was happening anyway. With social media rising, it was something that I started watching from the early 2000s as it emerged, and then eventually started podcasts and blogs. And I was an academic at the time, so I was teaching teachers, training trainers, and trying to help them to find a way to learn and how to teach their students better. So that was my avenue in, and later I realized that's really valuable for entrepreneurs and experts as well, and even enthusiasts who have something to share.
Now, seeing that, I want to ask you, why is having a social media strategy essential for, the likes of influencers nowadays and thought leaders to thrive in those, industries of being influencers?
It's a really fast and happening thing. And we all find that we've kind of been dragged into social media, haven't we? We didn't realize what we were letting ourselves in for, and now it's taken over our lives far too much, I think. And that's where the strategy comes in, because it's very easy to get very busy and spend a lot of time on social media platforms. But is it really good for us as individuals? And is it really good for our brands if we are entrepreneurs or if we are experts or even professionals who want to eventually build a personal brand? So the strategy helps to make the time that you spend on social media smart time, so that you can put out quality content, interact with people in a way that really builds your brand and your personal presence online.
Now, we know on YouTube and TikTok, we're seeing individuals who, aspire to be influencers, and sometimes you see them their branding is not really directive to understand, okay, what is their niche or who is their target market. Now, for someone who wants to ace that firsthand, what would you say are the key steps that they need to consider to become a very successful influencer?
That's a lovely question, Maimouna, because in some ways, there are many external steps you can take, and definitely knowing your niche, knowing what you do, and being very clear about it is important. As you say, when people say they do this and that and that and that, we get very, very confused. So having a clear message is good. But where I would say there's something else to look at, it's really look inside yourself. Know yourself and think about what is your purpose. What is really the purpose behind what you do? And that's what really inspires me to help people with media strategy, because when they have a good media strategy, they can get their message out there. And if they're running a business for it or it's their profession, it means there's opportunity, there's income, and that's what matters.
Now, earlier on, you touched a bit on personal branding. And I think a lot of times you hear people that say, I'm a personal brand. And it's like, personal brand, how? Can you just help us understand on, the importance of personal branding and how we can actually ace that when we're trying to build ourselves as a brand rather than, because most of the time when we look at branding, it's more of product, service, and failing to understand that even you can be a brand.
Yes, and there are many hot feelings around this. There are people who are very tired of the word personal brand and also feel, why should I put myself in a box? I'm not a product, as you say, right? But how about a different way of thinking about it? Here's a word for you: your professional fingerprint. So rather than just put yourself out there as a brand, think about this. What is the fingerprint that you leave on everything that you do? Whether it's your social media presence or an article that you are in, or even if it's just the way that you interact with people. The wonderful American author Maya Angelou said, people forget everything you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. How do you make them feel? That's your fingerprint, and it's on everything you do.
And what would you say are some of the key elements that you need to bear in mind so that, you know, when you're building your professional fingerprint, it becomes something that speaks to your purpose and who you are? Because, you know, with brandings, I mean, what we like changes all the time, but there's something that just doesn't change when it comes, I believe, and you can correct me at that, when it comes to the idea of building your professional fingerprint.
Yes, I do think there's a deep essence inside of us that probably doesn't change. And maybe over time things will change in terms of the look and the feel and this kind of thing. But if you can find what is the essence of what that purpose is of what you do, how do you show that in the things that are out there in your brand? Whether it's the message that people get when they look at the colors that you use or the fonts that you use. It sends a message that gives people a feeling. So it's that feeling that we're after.
Oh, okay. And now here's another question, Marie, I would like to ask is the idea of a media kit. I know makeup kits, first aid kit, but media kit, that is something I would like for you to just help us understand as to why is it important and what role does it play to individuals who are trying to build successful brand, be it in the likes of building your professional fingerprint or maybe your service or product brand.
Well, just like the makeup kit or the first aid kit puts everything together that you need in a neat tiny little box, a media kit tells people in the media exactly who you are and what you do and what makes you special. Okay. So rather than them having to do a lot of sniffing around to find out who you are, your media kit can tell them exactly. And especially if you are building a personal brand or a professional fingerprint or you represent your business, if people get your information wrong, it can be very problematic. So you can take responsibility with your media kit. Make sure that they get your name spelled right and your business right and the facts right, and use the picture that you like instead of the one they dragged off Google, right? From that you might not like.
So now, on the media kit, is it something that can be built by an individual, or you need the assistance of a media strategist, or there is a professional that you need alongside you to help you building that media kit for yourself, or is it something that you can do yourself?
You can do it yourself.
Okay.
And if you can do it well and in style, absolutely go for it. And there are some wonderful resources online. Of course, I help people to build their own media kits, or for some clients, if they are ready to hand it over and they don't want to worry about that kind of thing, then I build it for them. And it really is, in the end, just a document which can include things like your bio, different photographs of you, information, all the awards you have won, all the places they can find you. For my clients, I like to put in a QR code that leads to interviews with them. So, for example, they'd have a YouTube playlist that is all the interviews in which they appeared, and then people can just go and get to know them from that. So you can be very creative with your media kit, but it should speak of who you are. That's what it's really about.
You know, when you're explaining it, you know what's popping in my mind? A CV. But then this time it's not even just like about, you know, it's professional, but it's in the sense of, you know, media. Because, you know, on your CV, like, for example, if you're looking for a job as an accountant, you can't put a link to a video, because when you're printing that out, it's not easy for the person to go and follow that link to watch a video of what the work you've been doing, amongst other things. Now, here's another thing I would like to get your insight on, which is what are the critical components of a robust web presence?
Yes, a very, very important question, because your web presence today can be such a big key to who you are, what people find out about you. Because when we hear about somebody new, especially if we're thinking of doing business with them, what do we do first? We go to Dr. Google, right? And what Google, of course, is probably the most powerful search engine. But we've heard a lot of talk about search engine optimization. And what we really want is that when somebody looks for you on Google, that you're at the top. And not because of a scandal or a bad news story, but because of the information that you put out there. So when you have that robust web presence, that means that there are a number of good quality pieces of material featuring you that people can learn more about you from. And I also very strongly recommend using a reputable social media platform like LinkedIn, because actually, if you Google yourself, you're probably going to find the top result with your name is your LinkedIn profile. Go try it this evening.
I'm so doing that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why your LinkedIn profile is so important. Many people neglect it because they think, oh, it's just another social media platform. It's not. It's a very important one for your career.
Now, earlier on we spoke about, influencers, and we know that most of the time they also tend to also work with other brands. And I think that's where it becomes very important, where you align with brands that speak to your core essence and, in the plight of building that professional fingerprint. I want to ask, from your experience, what would you say are the common mistakes that are, done by, the influencers, be it someone who's been in the game or someone who's just starting off in the game?
Well, we've seen so many influencers come and go that I think we're all beginning to sniff when there's too much of a brand deal going on. And we're becoming very careful and very jaded about that. So what you mentioned there is really important. Go for the values. INX Prime is a values-driven TV station, and that is exactly the same kind of approach to take. Go with the values that match with yours, and you won't end up regretting what you've done. Plus, it becomes a natural match. The reason for a collaboration, whether it's a personal collaboration, a partnership, or a brand deal, is really to put both parties in the best light, organically. So you're speaking to the same kind of audience, but just enriching their world. So if it's not a good match, you're in trouble. Go for the values match, and again, come back to that purpose and your deepest essence, and you're in business.
Now, Marie, with a track record of doing what you're doing from the early 2000s, when social media wasn't even such a hype as it is right now, where people are actually, building companies and making money from it, what would you say are some of the trends that you foresee in the future for individuals who would like to become social media influencers? And what are some of the tips that you can share with them that they need to be on the lookout for, and how they themselves can be on the lookout for some of these trends and evolving aspects of social media?
It's very interesting, because I think you nailed it a little bit earlier on. The new thing to be, I mean, kids used to say, oh, I want to be an astronaut. Now kids say, I want to be a content creator. I want to be an influencer. And it might actually be a really good business model. We see many people who are making it work, and yet we see many people who fail. So to make it succeed, understanding what the trends are really helps. The trend is many people are wanting to go that direction. So we're going to need to be able to stand out and really give something special, something that's unique. That sounds a bit scary, but there is something that's really unique about each one of us, and that is that you are different. And the clue to that might not actually be the things you're great at. It might even be the things that are imperfect about you. So looking into those vulnerabilities, the authentic you, is becoming a very big trend. It's a pity that it's a trend, but finally we've woken up to it, and hopefully that's a trend that will persist. We're tired of the fake, we're tired of the things that are not so meaningful. What we're looking for is real meaning, real people that we can connect with. We might not see so many huge brands, so many media brands even are feeling the pinch in the print media. We're seeing many places are closing down their print publication, but what if we have a smaller audience, but it's an audience that really cares? So work with an audience that really cares. So authenticity, authentic connection, and again, the values match.
You know, Marie, there's something that I think is becoming a trend in our era, where parents are now taking or putting their children in the industry of, being social media influencers. And I think growing up, we've seen, young influencers like, 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, but then when they grow up, they don't grow up to be what we anticipate them to be, and they have to face that backlash of trying to recreate their identity and re-speak their essence. What would be your advice to parents who want to go that direction of building, that influencer career for their children, that they can also bear in mind the idea that who you're raising now might not be the same person as soon as they hit maybe adolescence or adulthood? How can they navigate that?
It's It's a very challenging arena to enter into, and I would say proceed with caution, proceed with wisdom, really discuss it with everybody who's involved. It takes a village to raise a child, sure. And to raise a child in public exposes you to a lot of all the things that life throws at you anyway, but just exponentially bigger. So do discuss it with a child and be sure that they understand what they are letting themselves in for. It does seem very exciting to be famous on social media, and it can even be a really good source of income, but really providing the support that they can approach that with wisdom is very, very important.
Now, Marie, our conversation was full of information and insight for any individual to thrive in being the successful influencer. I mean, we spoke about some of the common mistakes. We spoke about building that professional fingerprint. What would you like for, viewers at home and influencers that are tuning in to take away from our conversation on all things building a successful social media career?
Well, the big thing is, Maimuna, you're doing it anyway. So you may as well take control, decide how do I want to steer the ship, because we are today all out there on social media. We can either be victims of it or we can decide what do we put out there, what is my professional fingerprint.
Marie, thank you so much for joining us this evening right here on INX Prime.
What a pleasure. Thank you, Maimuna.
Viewers at home, there you have it with my conversation with Marie Leroux, who is the social media mafia boss, who does everything and everything in terms of assisting individuals build a very successful brand. Because we understand social media, it can crowd you with so many opportunities, and this you end up, assigning yourself or collaborating with something that doesn't even speak to your essence. After all, collaboration is all about, highlighting both of our good aspects and our essence and our principles, amongst other things. But viewers at home, that's where we close it off for now. Let's take an ad break. See you when we come back.